Welcome to CineVerse Theories. I'm your host Tyler, and today we're diving into one of the biggest mysteries of the Ahsoka series, the identity of Baylan Skoll Jedi Master. But before we dive into the theory, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. Now, I know there have been several theories about who Baylan's master could be, including Count Dooku, Mace Windu, Plo Koon, and there are some people who want it to be a Jedi we've not been introduced to yet. But out of all the theories, to me there is only one person it could be, and that's Count Dooku.
Yeah, baby.
Mainly because I get a real Dooku / darker Qui-Gon vibe from Baylan. He's very stoic, he doesn't buy into the Jedi dogma much like Dooku and Qui-Gon, and he seems very wise when dealing with confrontations. We see him only use violence as a last resort, which is very Qui-Gon and Dooku-like.
None shall defy me, not even you, Master Jedi.
Okay, maybe a little more Qui-Gon-like than Dooku. This makes me think that Baylan was trained by Dooku after Qui-Gon, but before the Clone Wars and his eventual fall to the dark side. I think Dooku imparted the same unique teachings and overall outlook on the Jedi and the Force with Baylan just like he did with Qui-Gon Jinn. Dooku has a unique style of training for his Padawans and apprentices, which shapes them differently than your typical Jedi. We see this all the way down the line of masters and apprentices, excluding Obi-Wan of course, but with Qui-Gon, Anakin, Ahsoka, and even the Padawan he trained before Qui-Gon, Rael Averross. And you can find more on him in the Master and Apprentice book. Really good read. Highly recommend it. And now we see it in Baylan. I think their training mainly focused on honing Baylan's talents, particularly his lightsaber combat and the mastery of the Force, with an emphasis on balance and not shying away from the dark side like most Jedi. Dooku believed that you could use the dark side without fully becoming a Sith or like being engulfed by it. And we see this in him because he never has Sith eyes. I think maybe once or twice during the Clone Wars he does, but overall he's in his regular form and regular eyes, but is still using the dark side. And Dooku was gradually heading towards the dark side, and I believe he studied the abilities of the dark side for a long time while he was still a Jedi, because he believed you could do both. But while Dooku was disillusioned with the Jedi Order, he didn't actively seek to turn Baylan to the dark side. Instead, he hoped to show him the flaws of the Jedi's approach and let Baylan carve his own path in the galaxy. Whereas Dooku felt he no longer had a choice in the matter because of everything he'd done, and we see this in the Tales of the Jedi episode 4, The Sith Lord, and it reflects on all the things that he's done up until Qui-Gon's death. And I'll give you a quick summary of what I'm talking about. So we see a quick glimpse of everything he did with like the clones, Sifo-Dyas, and then eventually killing Master Yaddle. And he just feels like he has no choice but to be the apprentice of Sidious. I think Dooku believed Baylan could be the bridge between the Jedi and his vision of a more balanced order. This is similar to Qui-Gon, who also questioned the Council's decisions on several things, and he even turned down a seat on the Council, and this is also explained in that same book, Master and Apprentice. And I think that's what Baylan was basically alluding to when he said this to Shin Hati.
Fall of the Jedi, rise of the Empire.
It repeats again and again and again.
Under Dooku's guidance, Baylan came to see the Jedi as increasingly dogmatic and saw that they were more concerned with serving the Republic and the Senators rather than following the path of the Force and serving the Force. This caused Baylan to grow disillusioned with the Jedi himself, and he began to question their priorities much like Dooku and Qui-Gon again. So you can see a lot of similarities between the three of these. And over time, Baylan adopted a new, more pragmatic perspective, similar to that of Dooku's. But I don't think he's as quite on the dark side as Dooku was, because again, if you look back at the Tales of Jedi, the Dooku episode, you see how quick he was to anger, and he was always resting at like a 7 out of 10 on the anger scale. Like he was just ready to snap. I think Baylan became more of a darker Qui-Gon than necessarily a Dooku. He was utilizing both the light and the dark side of the Force, but not fully embracing it as a Sith or a Jedi. He's more of like a gray Force user, you could say. I think he sees himself as a mediator between the Jedi and the Sith ideologies. Similar to Dooku, I think he believes there's a middle ground. You don't have to be all in one or the other. And I think this is how he has trained Shin Hati, and this is what he means when he says this.
He was trained as a Jedi. You, I trained to be something more.
Now, in my opinion, this is the best overall approach to be sort of that middle ground, and I think that's what he's aiming to do on Peridea, and that is to start a new order that's neither Jedi nor Sith, but a combination of the two. Now, jumping back to after the Clone Wars as the Galactic Civil War unfolded, I believe he chose to go into self-imposed exile, seeking solitude and a deeper understanding of the Force. And you may be thinking, well, if he was a dark side user, why didn't he just join Vader or the Emperor? And I think that's because, like I said, he doesn't see himself as Jedi or Sith. And I believe he hated Anakin for destroying the temple and killing all the younglings and Jedi, which was his family at the time. While he didn't agree with the Jedi's ideology 100%, that doesn't mean he wanted them gone. I think this is what drove him to explore the dark side even more, was his hatred towards the Empire and Vader, which is why I think he remained largely uninvolved in the galactic events and was probably on a remote planet somewhere training Shin to be what he believed to be the perfect mix of Jedi and Sith. And he owes all of this to his master, Count Dooku. What are your thoughts on this theory? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next one.